That's why I believe when you fine tune, you don't really want to ask for physical stuff, because it's so engaged with that sensory system. And with all of the way I've grown and learned about the energies from the dark side, which really isn't the dark side, but we're not going to go into that.
It's the other side.
It's the other side, but it's the different frequencies. I literally don't have to freak out. The fight, flight, freeze has been so overburdened, it cannot process because it's just way too much information flooding in. It's like when water starts to come in through your door and then all of a sudden it's the difference between raindrops and a tsunami. One's going to push harder. Okay? So that's what's happening with the fight, flight, freeze, is that it's all pushing in and it's not coming in small waves. It can't process. It can't cope. So then it has to constantly be in a fight, flight, freeze. Our brain is, the limbic brain is so fully loaded with bad memories, scared, traumas, dramas, all of our reactions and all of it. Our body keeps producing so many chemical peptides. Because it's unable to process, then it shows up in our physical body as well as our life.
So it goes to this person's question of, and the answer's up on YouTube, but another recap that I got was the courage. So the stuck is about the process, taking in, hearing, speaking, and that was part of what you were being able to voice what was going on and actually taking it in. Sometimes we don't want to take it in, and that's sometimes it's a protection device, and sometimes it's a defense. There's the protection, there's a defense. You know, if we've been taught that, you know, if we react a certain way, such and such punishment is going to happen.
It's the conclusion we came up with when it happened. We had to make sense of our world, and when it comes up as a conclusion, it can come up as a limited decision.
Right, because it worked at that point in time in the past, but it may not be working for you right now.
That's
so
why
that's the
limited.
upgrade. That's the time to update.
So the programs need to be updated. Our fight, flight, freeze needs to be updated. Our limbic brain needs to be updated. But how do you do it? Well, you got spyware for the computers, right? Well, you have us.
Anti-spyware?
The anti-spyware. Anti-spyware, and that will explain what it does.
Gets rid of the stuff that people try to put in your computers.
And that would be people that put their crap in you, on you. And when, consider the source. I had an enemy that was sitting there telling me that I was bad and no good, and then, but I almost believed her because she had the signature of my father. And then it's the voice you tell your kids is the voice that you discipline your kids with is the voice, their inner voice as they grow. It doesn't always have to be, but it has. We are learning with thought management, the healing tool. It is simply about how to take care of all that extra voices in your head. For her, this stuck question. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, there was one thing that I posted in one of my forums was, before you diagnose yourself with mental illness or low self-esteem, make sure that you're not just hanging around with a bunch of a-holes.
Exactly. And
sorry for the language, but it was on the picture.
You know, so the healing tools are all about helping you resolve to evolve, meaning creating closure. It's like, I was also comparing it to when my daughter, like, when you have your window open in your computer, it's one. And then when you open another tab and another tab and another tab, then you have like 50 tabs up, but then you can also say, oh yeah, open it in a new window. You can have 1,000 windows up. When you have too much open, the computer slows down because it's trying to do too many things at once. That's kind of like what happens to our brain when there's too many hells going on at once. We get drained on this. And learning how to close them, and you can reopen them later if necessary, but clearing, filing, do what you need to do. Going back to her question, why do I have money stuck troubles? Well, there's some part of your life that's probably about 3 years age, 3 or 4 I keep seeing, that you had to stop dreaming, stop pretending, stop being. It was time to grow up. It was time to be a certain way. Now, whether you were forced to do this or you observed this habit, what do I mean by observe the habit?
You take a moment, and it takes practice and discipline to actually take what's going on in your reality, stop and start looking at it like it's a movie or a TV show where you're not engaged in it. I mean, you are engaged in it, but you're just watching it and taking note of what is going on.
What's funny, somebody couldn't understand what happened. Let me ask you a question, dear. What did I just ask you? What was the question?
That's hilarious.
It is, because it left my mind. I knew you were answering it, but somewhere something happened to be a disconnect, and I don't get it.
You asked, how do we become the observer in our life?
Is that what I asked?
Or something like that.
He's-
How do you observe what's going on?
Yes.
That sounds like, okay, that's interesting. It's hilarious.
Did you ask
Because
something?
they have me in another dimension. I
Apparently,
think,
'cause I
sitting-
don't
Because
remember.
now I have cotton candy feeling up here.
Yeah.
So is this what happens to her?
Oh, who stops your dream? How do you know? So what's the difference between when you observe the modeling stage, when you're 3 or 4 years old, you're watching your parents do things without realizing you're observing. But you're also learning about how to behave, what kind of mannerisms to have. You're learning the right from wrong. You're learning all of these stages how to be a little human. And when that occurs, you know, and if somebody says to you, quit dreaming, or it's wrong, or they're taught to quit dreaming. My mother, she just shut herself down. Well, as I got to a certain age, I shut myself down. And oh, wait a minute, I don't have to become my mother just because I observed that this is the way I'm supposed to act. No, I don't have to do that. And they're saying that there's something that's suppressed. And as soon as I say what it is, and they say it is how she wants to direct herself. So the question, can she direct herself? And can she have the courage to stand up? Like, I had to take a big adventure in my world, and the question was, can I do this? It would mean I would have to leave my husband. I would have to upset the house. I would have to do many different things. And I had the courage because I know that what matters is my soul. And it did, yeah, it upset the apple cart, but like I told on Mondays, I think, was simply that if I didn't upset the apple cart and take my focus off what was happening and put it somewhere else, we would still be living in a disharmony life and constantly living in a negative state. And how is that going to help me? It isn't. Because it was affecting my health, it was affecting who I was, it was affecting our relationship. But now that we had to shake things up, take the courage to move forward, and literally now I can refocus on what they told me to get my mind off, because they recalibrated everything. So I'm allowing myself to move forward. So when it comes to can you dream, and then what's suppressed, because it says where is it that you can be the director. I have a friend, my daughter's friends over, and one of the things is that all her dreams that she was showing me the example of, she's telling me all the dreams, I interpreted them, and she then had questions about why a certain thing happens, and it all has to do with the fact is that she was told that she doesn't know better, everybody else knows better, and everybody's supposed to direct her and tell her what she wants to be, and she's at this stage where she, well, I want to go to college for too many things, but I'm not sure what I want to do. And of course, then there's that insult that she should already know what she should be focused on. You shouldn't be taste testing everything, you know, because like it's wrong to be able to say, you know, taste test. Just pick something and go for it. Well, that had been fine for the old days, but we have more fine-tuning our sensory system on the inside instead of being physically sensory system that you had to obey and do this. You're able to step back and go, oh.
Right, there's so many more entrepreneurs in the world today than there were when I was graduating high
So
school.
that's a good example. And we're also done being drones. We're done living other people's dream. Here's another form of
It's a
dreaming.
bit muffled, it says. Our sound is muffled?
Oh, crap.
Is it going dead?
No, it's not going dead.
But you couldn't, Skype wouldn't work or whatever?
No, they couldn't hear us. First 20 minutes, couldn't hear us.
How about now? Is the sound? It's fine on the phone.
Okay, so Skype, Blog Talk must be doing something because we're not going to go through Skype now. I'll have to see if there's any specific updates that I have to look for. I don't know what to do. But
Maybe
as
it's
far
a
as
Blog Talk issue then. why
I'm
you're
listening
not
through
doing it.
computer on Blog Talk.
the pimp dream. there was a video that I had bought because it was very good, and it was to teach about the pimp and the hoe. It was
Ghetto metaphysics.
That's it, ghetto physics.
Ghetto physics.
And everything is ghetto physics. And as you listen to this guy talk, he's absolutely right, because the archetype of the pimp is to take and put their dream into the hoe's head. And how many times have we heard people put their dreams in our head and then tell us to go out and live them? Of a pimp was somebody that was to be in charge over you. What can happen is simply this. If the hoe stops fighting back and only finally gets tired and gives up, then it becomes the victim. So the victim is actually worse, is very much worse off than the hoe is. But what happens is that everybody wants direction. It's following the leader. The leader is the one that knew how to take all of a sudden, and he doesn't give a rat's ass, knows what he wants, knows that he can be mean, knows how to direct that energy. I mean, look at what Hitler did. I mean, he just stood up and said, I'm in charge. I mean, did anybody really officially elect him anything?
I think initially, but he pretty much assigned himself powers once the Kaiser died.
What about Stalin?
Stalin
I mean.
Yeah, Stalin was just a dictator. I don't know.
But a lot of people just
like
rise
that
up.
usually just kill off their competitors.
But people just rise up, and they are
They have that energy to be able to do it. I don't know that I would have the energy.
Oh, I wouldn't want to, because there's no compassion in that. I mean,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, to have that fortitude to actually sit there and say, I'm going to be dictator now. I don't know that I would have the strength. I don't have the strength to do
I don't have the strength
well,
either.
I also have a lot more compassion.
But when I watch people, they really don't understand why nobody get them. And it's saying it all depends on the soul's growth, and then why would we need to project them to be in that state in the first place? It's very intricate, but it's very, very much in understanding. So again, I feel like we haven't directly answered it, because I'm trying to figure out what, I mean, I hear off into the distance, okay? Different voices that would like to communicate about this subject. And the dreaming
So
is that,
it's allowing them in.
well, and do I need to allow them in? Does she need to allow them in? Well, I think there's another view on dreaming. We know that dreaming, imagination, and pretending are very important. We're told that most of us were told to shut it off and shut down and shut up.
Right, when I had my nightmares as a child, my mom would say, oh, you just have an overactive imagination. All right, click, turn that off, so that if I turn that off, then I won't have the nightmares.
And that's interesting. Now, dreaming, you have to physically dream because it gives you a feedback loop that gives you nourishment to some degree. That's why it's important that you do dream. Don't worry if you don't dream, you're probably still dreaming, but you're just not aware of that level of, through the thalamus, you're just not aware of it. But, to dream, to use the law of attraction, most people are afraid if I dream it, then I'll actually have to have it. And so then sometimes the dream looks back and stares at you, and you're like, die, because you don't know how the pathway to know what you're supposed to do with it. Because everybody else has always taken the leadership in your life and never really said, here, be the leader. Now, some people have learned to be leaders because they got strong wills, but then, you know, they learn to be crushed. So that doesn't sound like a fun thing. All I can tell you is this. We have a golden lasso healing tool, and that helps you dream. And what it does is that when you say, okay, I'm ready to increase the money in my space. Well, to the universe, that might mean a penny. Oh, look, there's one on the floor. You just increased your money. If you're looking for to be financially freedom, that means to be financial freedom, financial success is to allow yourself to just watch it flow in and out of your space.